Paul Grimaud, dont la verve poétique nous a déjà souvent ravis, termine un nouveau film.
L'animation en France, elle a bénéficié de toute l'histoire de l'illustration.
Sur l'écran de droite, en fait.
Il y a une agilité, je pense, de ce secteur qui est attractif. Et puis il y a des projets qui font rêver aussi.
Si, pogna posso paradis.
Welcome to a new edition. I'm Nadia Sharbi, and this week we're putting the focus on the country's booming animation industry. While Hollywood still rules supreme, France has become a global benchmark for animated film, just behind the US and Japan. Not surprising, perhaps, given animation's French origins date back as far as the late 19th century. And while movie theatres, like the one behind me, have sadly fallen foul of the crisis, French animation continues to find its audience online, both domestically and abroad. Here's how it's managed to stay in the picture.
You probably recognise these curious-looking fellows shaped like pill capsules, but you might not know that they were born in this Paris apartment.
Josh, pump it up!
We're visiting Pierre Coffin, the co-creator and voice of the Minions.
Si, pogna posso paradis la pota!
Then adding the minion effect.
The pandemic and multiple lockdowns haven't managed to silence the little rascals in blue dungarees, as their creator can bring them to life from home.
Up! I've
been able to keep working because, as you can see, I don't really need a lot. It's a very low-tech setup. It means I can work pretty much anywhere. If I can't go to work, I can work here.
As a result, this made-in-France success story hasn't been hit by the health crisis. And it's the same for animation studios across the country. In the heart of Paris, this company employs nearly 250 people.
Je te présente Paf le chien.
The company has survived the crisis thanks to its business model. From graphics to 3D animation to voice dubbing, everything is produced here.
We have recruited top-rate talent that's allowed us to master the whole process. The business is 10 years old, and we've built up knowledge over that 10 years.
95% of their employees work from home.
We've been lucky to have very efficient technical teams who helped 150 employees set up working from home within 48 hours. It's an adaptable sector that's popular, and there are dream projects too.
In 2019, French animation employed a record 7,700 employees. Superbrod plans to hire nearly 350 people in the next few months. So is the sector immune to the pandemic? Not completely, says this specialist.
This sector could be affected in the second phase of the pandemic. The turnover of broadcasters in 2020 will fall by 15%, so we can expect a drop of around 15% in investments in the animation sector in 2021.
The drop in advertising revenue for broadcasters could have a knock-on effect, as the market is mostly dependent on their revenue. But luckily for French animation studios, platforms like Disney Plus and Netflix have actually benefited from the crisis.
So behind the multi-billion-dollar grossing success stories are some great schools honing French talent and a state-subsidised system. But France's animation timeline also extends from the past to the future, what with over 130 years of savoir-faire and the innovative input of French tech.
It may come as a surprise, but the first ever cartoon was French. With the help of this machine, the Praxinoscope, its inventor Émile Renaud organised the first big-screen projections in history. They took place in 1892 at the Musée Grévin, 2 years ahead of the Frères Lumière. Still in its early stages, animation developed slowly in France due to a lack of resources.
Il n'y a personne dans les années 10 ou 1920 qui se sont dit comme Walt Disney.
No one in France in the 1910s or 20s had the idea, like Walt Disney or the Warner Brothers, to create an animation industry. So for a very long time it remained the craft of artists led by cartoonists and producers, the first being Paul Grimaud, who said, "I have an artistic vision. Animation cinema is an art, and I will fulfill my vision."
J'irai au bout de mon envie.
Paul Grimaud opened the doors to his workshop to help other directors develop their own style. He won the Prix de Luc in 1980 for The King and the Mockingbird, a first for an animated film. Meanwhile, French animation had reached a turning point. A new government policy encouraged companies to produce more cartoons for television as Japanese manga flooded French channels. 30 years later, France is widely seen as a world leader when it comes to richness and variety in animation, in comparison to the US playing field, dominated by giants Disney and Pixar. This artistic freedom is largely due to the financial support of the CNC, the National Centre for Cinema and Moving Images. The production house Les Films du Poisson Rouge says this funding has made it possible to develop new tools that have attracted the interest of many foreign filmmakers.
We're now recognised as the ones who can provide the solution to the problems that regularly occur when we start a film, like how far can I push the artistic limit in the time allotted to me within my budget. When we're consulted about an issue that we haven't yet encountered, we always try to find a solution, and so far we've always found it.
Challenges that require unparalleled creativity and technical skills. The Gobelin School of Images in Paris is considered to be one of the best animation schools in the world. In 2020, it was listed second in the Animation Career Review's prestigious ranking, just behind Sheridan College in Canada.
Well, to give us his take on what makes French animation so successful, I'm joined now by French director and prolific comic book author Aurel, whose first full-length animated film, Joseph, has won critical acclaim, making it all the way to the Cannes Film Festival's official selection for 2020.
1939, ça te dit quelque chose? 500 000 réfugiés cherchent un abri en France. Tu crois qu'ils méritaient ça? Non, il y avait bien quelques gestes.
Tenez, c'est pour vous.
Aurel, hello, thank you for being with us. Now, your film depicts the true life story of a Spanish artist and politician, Josep Bartoli, during the Spanish Civil War and the Second World War, and his relationship with another artist, Frida Kahlo. Was animation the obvious means to tell this particular saga?
Moi, je suis dessinateur, donc je ne voyais pas du tout.
I'm a cartoonist, so even on the big screen I saw no reason why I wouldn't tell this story through drawings. But I didn't consider telling it as a graphic novel, for instance, because this juxtaposition of Josep Bartoli's drawings with my own needed sound as well, which cinema allows you to have.
Que permet le cinéma de mélanger le son et le dessin.
And you mentioned Josep's own drawings, which you've integrated into this film. How much has that style influenced the outcome of this movie?
Avec ce film, je voulais rendre
I wanted to pay homage to the work of Josep Bartoli in this film, and the best way to do that is to show his drawings.
De montrer ses dessins.
But I don't think his work directly influenced the look of the whole film.
Directement influencé, en tout cas la forme.
Even if I always had his remarkable drawings there in my mind, motivating me to push myself and my illustrations, I never tried to mould my style into his, because that wouldn't have worked.
Totalement inefficace et sans grand intérêt. Mais par contre,
his drawings help me come up with the plot. It's very inspired by what's found in his work.
Inspiré de tout ce qu'il peut y avoir dans les dessins de Joseph.
Now, we're here in a movie theatre, but of course the health crisis has now shut down most cinemas. Beyond the financial survival of the animation sector, were you disappointed that most of the people who will see Joseph didn't see it in a movie theatre?
C'est sûr que je préférerais que les gens voient.
I would of course prefer people to see Josep in a cinema.
Si on a eu la chance.
We were lucky enough to have a lot of success for the 4.5 weeks we were allowed to screen it for, and lots of people came.
On a eu un grand succès public. Le film.
It's coming out for on demand, where I don't know whether it will be as successful. I hope so.
Je l'espère, mais c'est évident que dans le traitement de l'image, et je pense que
even beyond the way the image looks, TVs nowadays are very capable. It's the sound that's important. We work very carefully on the sound, so it's a shame not to experience that in a cinema.
C'est dommage de ne pas avoir cette expérience-là dans une salle de cinéma.
How does the French input differ from that of others, for example, the US?
Les cultures sont différentes, donc on n'a pas la même approche.
There are different cultures with different approaches. With Josep, for instance, we specifically wanted to make a film d'auteur, which is a very French genre inspired by classic French films.
Dans le cinéma de façon classique.
This characteristic of film in general can also be applied to animation.
En général, s'applique aussi au dessin animé.
Now, the other thing that sets French animation apart is, like in the case of Josep, it often targets an adult audience with very serious themes. Why are the French so attracted to this medium, do you think?
With Josep, its success in cinemas wasn't necessarily because animation lovers went to see it. We attracted fans of art house cinema. But perhaps 10 or 15 years ago, this same set of people wouldn't have gone to watch an animation aimed at adults. I think the groundwork was laid by the cultural movement of adult graphic novels, particularly in the 90s.
Le mouvement culturel qui est né de la bande dessinée adulte aussi dans les années 90.
Now, European and particularly French-speaking readers are used to cartoons being an artistic medium, just like any other.
Sont habitués au dessin comme un médium culturel comme un autre.
Aurel, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, that's all, folks. Stay tuned to France 24.